Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Follow me.
So I got into a debate today with somebody over All Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter. I've spoken on this before, but I'm going to go ahead and break this down a little bit further. First, I want to say two things, though. Number one, sad enough in this country, it seems that people lack the intellectual maturity to listen to other people's opinions because they're more convincing, more worried about trying to convince somebody else that their opinion is the only opinion, that their opinion is correct, that they do not have the ability to sit back objectively and consider other people's opinion. Now, me, I might not like your opinion, I might not agree with your opinion, but I would respect your opinion and I fight to the death for your right to have it. I guess that's just the intellectual maturity that I have. Number two, me personally, I believe in one race, the human race. I don't look at people and say, okay, you're black, you're white, you're Asian, Latino, Native American, Muslim, so on and so forth. I look at people as people. I believe in the Homo sapien race, the human race. But I'm also not going to be ignorant and closed-minded enough to sit here and negate the fact that there are people that view things differently. That's their right. They are entitled to their own opinion, and I'm not the one to judge. So moving on to the issue. Of course, all lives matter. In my mind, I didn't understand the movement at first myself because I'm thinking, okay, well, all lives matter. We have to sit here and stop saying, okay, black and white and things like that and seeing things in color. But then I actually had conversations with people and I started looking into it and saying, okay, I understand what they're talking about. They're not saying that all lives don't matter. Of course, white lives matter. Of course, Asian lives matter. Of course, Latino lives matter and Muslim lives matter. That's not the point. What they're saying is with the social injustices that have existed within this country, black lives matter too. Okay, that's what is trying to be said here. Black lives matter as well. Okay, especially with the things that are going on against minorities in today's time. And if you don't believe me, look at a Trump rally. It's front and center on dang near every single media outlet that is out there on how minorities, particularly African Americans, are being treated unfairly and unequally, and they're being profiled to a certain degree. So I gave this person this analogy. And I said, look, saying that all lives matter is like showing up to a 5K breast cancer run, holding up a sign and screaming, cure all diseases. Of course we want to cure all diseases. We want to cure the Alzheimer's. We want to cure the AIDS. But we're not at a cure all diseases race. We're at a breast cancer 5K run. We're talking about breast cancer right now. We're talking about black lives right now, because the things that are going on within this country, black lives are not being treated equally. I see it all the time in my neighborhood, in my classroom. I see it front and center right there in front of me. And I don't understand how people can sit here and say about me that I'm trying to race bait and I'm trying to divide us when it actually couldn't be further from the truth. I believe in order to fix the problem, you have to address it. You have to acknowledge that the problem exists first and then move forward. You can't sit here and say that black lives have always mattered, because the reality is, and historically, black lives weren't even considered black lives because they were considered property. They were considered things no different than a horse or a cow or a piece of furniture or anything else other than that. You can't sit here and deny that a problem exists. So in the conversation, even though I wasn't trying to convince the person, they understood what the movement was trying to say. And like I told them, I was like, you know what? I understand, because my heart is telling me, of course, all lives matter. Of course they do. But what we have to point out is the fact that black lives have not been treated equally. They have not been treated fairly. The way that the system is set up is not, within education, within the criminal justice system, it is not set up equally. And people who tend to deny that are the people who existed under white privilege, just like me, for the longest time, because I didn't want to believe that things like that actually existed. But when I look around the world, of course they do. I can't deny what's sitting right there in front of me. So the person was like, you know what, now I can understand. Yeah. Oh, you opened your eyes just like I did. And like I said, even though I wasn't trying to convince the person, at least they had that ability to sit back and learn and grow and say, okay, I might not agree with the movement, but at least I can understand where they're coming from now, right? It's crazy that this country has gone this way, but the racial tensions in this country will continue to increase so long as people try to deny it. I am not about dividing. I'm all about uniting. But in my opinion, in order to do that, we have to unite as a people. As I said before, blacks, white, Latino, Asians, Muslims, all of us. We have to unite as a people in order to solve the problem. I want to work with the people that want to fix the problem. That's what I want to work with. That's who I want to work with. That's what I want to work towards. That's what I teach in my classroom. One love for everybody. One respect for everybody. Black lives matter too. Okay? Teach your life.
What is the most important aspect of the United States of America? What is the thing that we fight for all the time? Why is it that we have militaries that go out? What is it? Freedom. Freedom. What is the opposite of freedom? Slavery. The ultimate form of tyranny is slavery. Slavery is the ultimate form of tyranny. Nobody's ever studied slave laws consistently in school. My next question is, if we don't study slavery in school systematically, how will we ever know when tyranny is coming at us? How will we ever see tyranny coming at us if we never know what it actually looks like? Think about that. I'm going to share one with you real quick, a couple with you real quick. Written in 1705, originally in 1662, that all children born in this country shall be held bond or free only according to the condition of their mother. That says that if your mother was a slave, when you're born, you're automatically a slave. If your mother was free, you got lucky. You're automatically free. That's what that law says. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is the law that recognized and sanctioned the institution of slavery in Virginia in 1662. This is a repeat law. I want to delve into this very briefly because you need to understand what this means. This law says that another organization, another entity, or another individual can determine your worth before you're even born. I will repeat. An organization, an entity, or another individual can determine your worth before you're even born. Where does that exist today in our society? Where else does that exist today in our society? Who said it? Abortion. derived from the same mindset as the law that sanctioned and recognized the institution of slavery, the ultimate form of tyranny. Determine somebody's worth before they're even born.
Who owns you? Most people instinctively answer, I own myself. But most people don't actually believe that. What does it mean to own something? It means that you and you alone have the right to decide what is done with that thing. What is yours you can use, you can trade, you can give away, you can destroy. So what does it mean to say you own yourself? It means that you and you alone have the right to decide what is done with your body and your mind, with your time and your energy. If someone else had the right to decide what is done with your body and your mind, your time and your energy, then he would be your owner and you would be his slave. So, are you anyone's slave? Do you pay taxes? Do you feel obligated to obey whatever the politicians decide to call law? Do you imagine that someone else has the right to control you, to rule you? Do you vote? In every political election, you are asked to decide who you want owning you, but owning yourself is never one of the options offered. The only choice you are given is the choice of which politicians will coerce and control you by way of so-called regulation and legislation, and confiscate what you produce by way of taxation. Whoever wins, you will be extorted and dominated. When you vote, whether you win or not, you are accepting that someone else has the right to rule you. You are conceding the state's authority over you. You are agreeing that you are going to be someone's slave, with the only question being which political master will own you. If you believe that you have an obligation to pay taxes, if you concede that it is up to someone else to decide how much of your earnings they will let you keep, then you are their slave. If you own yourself, you don't need the permission of anyone, any individual, any group, any collective, any country, any legislature, to run your own life, make your own choices, and keep the fruits of your own labor. As long as the politicians see you voting, petitioning, protesting, and campaigning, begging for tax cuts, whining for different legislation, as long as they see you timidly obeying whatever commands they issue, while begging them to change their so-called laws, then they know that they own you in mind and body. Writing or calling your congressman merely tells him that you still think he's important, that you still view him and his fellow parasites as authority, and that you still think it's his choice whether to let you be free or not. As long as you play their games and legitimize their system, obeying their so-called laws and paying their so-called taxes, acting as if they are your rightful lords and masters, the tyrants know they have nothing to fear. The slave master doesn't mind his slaves pitifully begging for mercy, as long as they keep obeying and keep producing wealth for the master to steal. Those in power aren't worried about elections or petitions. What they do fear is that one day their victims will realize the truth, will stop believing in the divine right of politicians, will stop calling liars and crooks lawmakers, will stop calling the tyrants, mercenaries, law enforcers, will stop believing that anyone has the right to rule them, will stop imagining authority where there is none, will realize that they own themselves, and will stop bowing to the parasitical, anti-human beast called government. If you own your time and effort, and the fruits of your labor, then stop asking nicely to be allowed to keep it. If you own yourself, then stop asking nicely for legislative permission to run your own life. If you actually believe in unalienable rights, in individual liberty, in freedom, then stop asking nicely for the sociopathic parasites to let you be free. For humanity to be free, people need to stop thinking, talking, and acting like slaves. Stop bowing to megalomaniacs. Stop paying tribute to sociopaths. Stop obeying political parasites.
Got this professor who's saying that demographically, if you are at a certain strata, Donald Trump, you can never become Donald Trump.
Well, I got to watch Charles, and I thought Charles Payne did an excellent job of really demonstrating and giving numbers and giving facts. The fact is, if you work hard and you study hard and you really get out there and do it, or if you have the right ideas or whatever it is, look, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of brain power, and you have to be incentivized. I mean, the one negative, and that was also brought up by Charles today, is that you have a welfare system that really is... It takes away the incentive. It takes away the incentive from a lot of good people and great people that otherwise would be out there working. So, you know, you have that one problem. But
Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?